Bill O'Reilly highlighted his tremendous ignorance of economics on his show last night again, and he did his old pity the rich routine. Let's watch.
But it is the notion that somehow our capitalistic system has gone corrupt, and the feds must punish those making money. That'll be in the forefront of the 2006 campaign. This year, 2015, the feds will gather more tax dollars than ever before in the history of the USA. About $3 trillion. That's because since taking office, President Obama has proposed a whopping 442 tax increases, not counting 20 others associated with Obamacare. As you may know, Americans earning more than $400,000 a year must pay close to 40% of their income to the feds. Social Security taxes increased from 4.2 to 6.2%. All workers pay that. And itemized deductions, which can bring tax bills down, now being phased out for high-wage earners and profitable businesses. In fact, the USA has the highest tax rate on business in the world. And if you invest in business, short-term cap gains now close to 40%. Long-term cap gains up 15 to 20%. There's also an additional 3.8% tax on investment income to pay for Obamacare. So you can see, you have to be able to see, the taxes are everywhere on affluent Americans and business profits. But for the rest of Americans, things aren't so bad. Bottom 60% of wage earners pay just 2.7% of all federal income taxes. The bottom 40% actually get money from the feds. They receive payments called earned income tax credits. According to financial analyst Alexander Green, who works for the Oxford Club, the tax burden on business and investors drives down job creation and economic expansion. I believe that because I've cut back investing due to the heavy capital gains hit. Why should I risk my money? And I know small business people who will not hire because the feds are all over them with additional taxes and regulations. Yes, there is a big gap between the very rich and the working class here. But how much more can the government take from the affluent without crashing the entire free market economy? That's the real question of campaign 2016. And one more thing, if Hillary Clinton is going to continue the punishing taxation that Barack Obama has imposed, we all need to know that, because the result is likely to be the same: stagnant take-home pay. Again, the only way salaries will go up in America is for private industry to expand, creating more jobs and more competition for workers.
So he should be praising Obama. He's like, oh, we need the private sector to expand. I mean, Hillary and Obama with their tax and spend liberalism, they don't care about the private sector at all. Look at the private sector under Obama. He cut the public sector by hundreds of thousands of jobs, and he cut the deficit. Over 10 million private sector jobs have been created. So what you love, Bill, the stock market and the capitalist class and the rich and the private sector, that's exploding under Obama. You should be loving him. You should be kissing his feet. I was nice there when I said feet at the end. I could have used different body parts, but I spared Bill O'Reilly my wrath, at least right there. Okay, dude, the factual errors that were in there, my paper is full. I was trying to jot down as he was talking. All right, so let's try to go through this here. First of all, to his point, I invest less now because of the capital gains rate. So goddamn high. He said at one point there the capital gains rate is 40%. Totally made up. Totally made up. The capital gains rate is 15%. It's 15%. It's not going up. It's 15%. The same as it was before. Obama's in office. I don't invest anymore. No, you're full of shit. You're full of shit. That's absolute horse shit. And by the way, who thinks now, if they did before, that, Bill, I believe Bill, he's telling the truth, when it was proven repeatedly, 5 or 6 different stories where it's outright stone cold lies. Over the top lies, too. I saw nuns get shot. No, you didn't. You were there a year later. I saw people get blown up in Ireland. No, you didn't. You were there years later. I was in a war zone. No, that was a protest. So many lies, but he just keeps lying. He's so brazen with it. He goes, I love how he's outraged about it. The poor pay less in taxes. That's fucked up, man. What do you want them to pay more in taxes? You want them to pay more than the rich? I mean, I guess that's what he wants. Right? He's like, the bottom 50% or 60% only carry a small portion of the tax burden. Assholes. But Bill, you're forgetting to mention the other part of the equation. They make much less. He makes it seem like the wealth is evenly distributed, and therefore the bottom 50% or 60% should carry an equal rate as the top 50%. The bottom 50% should pay the same as the top 50% in burden of taxes. But then they would be paying more money than they even have, you idiot! What are the stats? We've covered them before on the show, but worldwide, the richest 85 people are worth more money than half the world combined. 85 people are worth more than 3.5 billion people. In America, the Walton family alone, 6 people, they have more wealth than the bottom 50% of the American people. But Bill O'Reilly's mad because the bottom 50% aren't paying enough in taxes. In other words, he wants you to pay more taxes. All right, Bill, we got you. So now from here on out, you can't use that argument that you always like to use of the Republicans are the party of tax cuts. We love tax cuts. We're looking out for your average worker, normal guys. That's who we're looking out for. Well, you just argued on your show right now that the bottom 50%, the bottom 60%, they're not paying enough for you. So you want to raise taxes on the poor and the middle class. That's what you're arguing. You just argued that. What an amazing, backwards ideology Bill O'Reilly represents. And then he says, the American corporate tax rate is the highest in the world. Oldest Republican canard and lie imaginable. The American corporate tax rate is the highest in the world only if you look at the rate on paper. The effective rate is the second lowest in the world. So what he's talking about is just the nominal rate. He's talking about, on paper is really high, but after you factor in all the deductions and all the loopholes, we have the second lowest corporate tax rate in the industrialized world. So he's totally misleading on that. And then he says, Social Security tax has increased. Can you believe that? Goddamn Obama. But again, what does he not tell you? It was Obama who, in the stimulus package, cut your Social Security taxes, knowing it was temporary. He did it as part of the stimulus package. He cut Social Security taxes, and then they defaulted back to the same rate that they were beforehand under the Bush administration. But what does he tell you? Just the latter part. The Social Security taxes just got raised. But you didn't tell us that he cut them, and then they were scheduled to go back to what they normally were under Bush. You don't tell us that part. Why? Because you're misleading. You're doing propaganda. And then the biggest bullshit line, Obama's done 442 tax increases. He's getting that from a right-wing think tank, from a study which has been totally and utterly debunked in every way, shape, and form. In fact, if anything, it's the opposite. There are fringe examples of Obama raising taxes a little bit. I wish he did it a lot more, right? But for the overwhelming majority of people, he cut taxes. He made 90% of the Bush tax cuts permanent. Permanent. He cut small business taxes in his first term alone over a dozen times. 442 tax increases, my ass. You know what that probably includes? The bullshit thing he said about Social Security. He cut your Social Security taxes, then they defaulted back to what their original rate was, and they counted as an increase. That's an increase. That's an increase. I mean, they're just lying. As George W. Bush used to say, ironically, this is fuzzy math. That's what I see here. And then my favorite part, going all the way back to the beginning here, he goes, this is how he started his rant. Our capitalist system has gone corrupt. And when he said that, I was like, oh, is he going to talk about money and politics? I'm listening, Bill. Say something. And then he goes on to explain, because of high taxes on the rich. The lack of historical perspective and economic perspective that idiots like this have, it's unparalleled. Because the United States, as far as modern industrial countries go, the United States is the kindest on the rich. Okay? Do you understand that? So when you look at other comparable modern industrial nations, you look at Australia, you look at Canada, you look at places throughout Europe, you look at places in the Scandinavian region, they have top marginal tax rates between 50 and 90%. Whereas here in the U.S., we're at 39.6%. And you're complaining about, we're destroying the rich. Are we? I just told you the statistics. The top 1% has more financial wealth than the bottom 95% in America. How are we going too hard on the rich? I mean, is this some sort of sick joke? And you do know that when we had higher taxes on the rich, It was the golden age of economic expansion in America. And we had a middle class that was the envy of the world. And we can fully fund our infrastructure, and we had better jobs available for people and no outsourcing of our jobs, and we had labor unions that were fighting for people. We had a better system when we had higher marginal taxes on the rich. But what do, Bill O'Reilly? You flip the truth on its head. And you argue, the rich are persecuted. I know. It must be terrible to have a yacht and 3 Maseratis and a house in the Hamptons. The rich are persecuted, and we need to cut their taxes more, even though it's already really low and one of the lower ones in the industrialized world. Spare me. If you want to create a better system, you go in the opposite direction. And no, even under a system where the rich pay more in taxes, there wouldn't be persecution or victimization of the rich. They can still be very, very, very rich, but we'd at least have people who can get an education and get health care and have a better infrastructure system set up, and we can give people equal opportunity, which I know is something that Bill O'Reilly is largely against.